there is already analysis that shows that what you see in the US is an epitome of what is happening almost all over the world. It's happening in the developed countries, it is happening in the emerging countries, and less so in countries below that. Because what happens in the US is likely to be replicated in countries closer in terms of the gradation of countries. Now, it manifests in two ways: either the rise of the right wing, and the rise of the right wing tends to happen in white countries. It happens in the rise of populism and opportunism, and that is what you see happening in other countries. There is reason to argue that there is a rise of populism in South Africa. There is a rise of more extreme views and more populism that is appealing to the poor who feel that they have not been served by the change after 1994, and politicians are seizing upon this in order to sell their points. I'm sure if you observe, you can see that happening. It's easier now to create a political ground on the basis of radical talk, even if it's just red talk. It's nothing more than that. The decline of the ANC is part of that. It is coming against a sense of disillusionment that is taking place around in the country, and we do not know if the ANC will return to power in 2019, and that's partly because of that. So there are certain shifts that are happening in our political systems that almost indicate to us that we might have a completely different political situation in 2 years' time. In the same way, many people don't believe it, in the same way that many people in the US did not believe it, that they might have a completely unusual and a completely different political system. For example, we are likely to head to a coalition where you have 3 or 4 government parties governing the country. We've never had that. It's a very unusual territory, but we can head to it. In France, they are likely to have a coalition of the right, the far right and the less right, like they have in Israel. They don't believe it to this day because they are a product of the French Revolution, liberty, rights, individual rights and stuff. They just don't believe what is not in their dreams. But they are likely to get it because the leading candidates in France right now is Macron and it is Marine Le Pen. And the other two, can you imagine what it means? There is a rise of the same in Germany. It is happening all over the place. We are likely to see the impact of that, the same tendencies growing in our own political system, though they will not be similar to the US. But in many of the developed countries, the European countries, you are likely to see almost something similar to Trump's the situation. Now, with regards to the question about whether we shouldn't be thinking about Africa first, that's been a dream on the continent. It's been a cry for a long period of time, but we haven't had a leadership that wants to place Africa first. We have a lot of leadership that wants to place, actually, their countries first. Trying to make Malawi a success, if Africa is not a success, is an act in futility. Malawi is only 6 million people. No country can succeed significantly in this world unless there are over 200 million people. You can't succeed alone. So Nyerere said in 1974 that the biggest problem facing Africa, besides what the enemy outside creates, but the biggest problem is African leaders themselves, because they are nationalists and they are not globalists, they are not African. And that's a problem we have. It's a problem we're going to have for a period of time, because the leaders we have take care of the interest of their countries first, and then the interest of their own stomachs first, and it's a real big problem. That the Mo Ibrahim Prize for African Leadership has not been given in the past 3 years. That's announced last week. They couldn't find somebody to give a prize to. It's a serious indictment on the leaders we have. But it's even a bigger indictment on us as citizens, because the leaders we have, we elect. I cannot forget the case in 2003, when did the Liberian situation end? The first election after the civil war, long civil war, then there was this chant by people who followed Charles Taylor, who was saying, he killed my father, he raped my sister, but I will vote for him. So they say that. So when citizens get to a point where they don't elect in their interest, but they elect because somebody sings or somebody looks good or somebody comes from my ethnic group or comes from my region, then we get the leaders we elect and we choose the leaders we hate. It's a problem. It's a deeper psychological problem about why do people elect people who are not in their interests. Why should food parcels, singing, dancing, dressing well, speaking good English be sufficient for you to be elected? Then we don't get the leaders who do. We have a dream on one side, but we employ the wrong tools to achieve the dream. And then we have what we call service delivery protest thereafter, where we protest against this leader who's not able to achieve this dream, but we selected a leader who can't achieve the dream anyway. And so in the end, it becomes an African citizen problem. It's a problem. It is an indictment on the education system, because the education system was meant to say, from first year to the 12th year of school, that by the time I exit the 12th year, I should have been so educated that I must know myself and have full control of myself, that I can even make the right choices. That people are educated through our system, schooling system and university system, and they still can't make the right decisions, it means our education is poor. Because if the education system doesn't teach people skills of become empowered citizens that can take critical decisions, not on based on some emotional thing, because it's my same race as me, or because it's an ethnic group as me, because he sings, then it's a serious indictment on occasion. Africa has divided itself, yeah, of course, because we have leaders who don't have a vision for unity. When unity is power, because you can't negotiate anything globally in international negotiations as a single country, you need to pool those resources together, argue as one, then you can get an advantage. But we have leaders who don't think in those terms. They feel they are too big because they have a flag in front of them, because they have a national anthem, because they are driven in nice cars, there's a state house. It's a terrible, really, it's a terrible idea of them. We are willing to kill to keep South Africa, instead of letting South Africa die and Southern Africa, a bigger space, live. Because if we are part of a 550 million people zone of life, which is from here all the way to Zambia, we can achieve a lot more than we can achieve right now. So it's a problem. It's nationalism. Nationalism. Nations must die if we are going to succeed. Trade within Africa, they trade a lot more with others than we trade with Africa. Angola exports oil to the US, into Europe. And South Africa imports oil from Arab world and elsewhere. Namibia, yet they are direct neighbors. It's a problem. Brain drain, people being pushed, our best of skills are being pushed into the other parts of the world by conditions that we have created, but the intellectuals are themselves not for completely innocent, because we ourselves have not worked hard enough to generate Africa-specific solutions. We spend all our lives trying to contextualize European thinking on the African continent. There's an African saying which says, borrowed waters will never quench your thirst. Things we mentioned, this whole thing is driven by a sense of nostalgia. Yes. A nostalgia to some pure past where the white race was dominant and it was pure. It was pure blood. Now this miscegenation with these Latino people and these black people and all that is what has weakened us as a people. It is true, which reminds us that is how Hitler rose. He was an ultra-nationalist. He was trying to make Germany great, but he wanted a pure Germany, not this one with a mixture of all these people, including the Greeks and the Portuguese, and then the Arabs and the Turks needed to be purified, and the Jews and all of this stuff, because they are not pure white. They are a kind of a shade of whiteness. And look at those. That's why anti-Semitism is also part of this language. And there's a gradation about who is a pure European. The pure European is an Anglo-Saxon from Central Europe, the Mediterranean Europe, the Eastern Europe, the Slavs, and the rest of them are part of the rest, not the pure. It's a big problem.